Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Danny Garcia, let me tell you, man, that guy has been finding a way to win for a long time, and he's been finding a way to win in ways that we haven't been aware of. He came back to the ring last night against José Benavidez Jr. And I'm going to be quite honest with you. When I was watching the fight, I was thinking, like, at any moment, if Benavidez was to open up and let his hands go, I felt like he could have got Danny Garcia out of there. I honestly felt like he could have knocked him out. But obviously there's something in Danny's hands that makes a person think twice about just running in on him. Because Benavidez Jr., he was taking Danny's shots. He was showboating a little bit, like, hey, you're not hurting me. But Danny Garcia did outbox him. But I just feel if Benavidez Jr. would have let his hands go, he would have stopped Danny Garcia. Garcia didn't look very comfortable at times in the ring. But then again, we're not used to seeing him box like that. So it showed that there's definitely another wrinkle to his game. And he showed it last night. When he throws his jab, Danny Garcia must have super heavy hands, because when he throws his jab, it looks simple. It looks ineffective. And he'll throw it 3 times, body, head, body, head, or 3 to the body, come with the right hand. But I was watching this other fight, like when he was fighting Brandon Rios. I watched that fight yesterday too. And he boxed the same way. So if someone's putting pressure on him, he looks the exact same. His feet look heavy. He looks simple. He looks like what they've always said about him, like he's just almost like not supposed to win, but somehow he keeps on winning. And I'm going to tell you, after watching Danny Garcia for the last several years, there's something in his hands. And that's why he went on to become a champ at 140, champ at 147. It's because there's something in his hands, But that being said, I think he has an uphill battle at 154. He's trying to fight Lara. I just think that's a horrible stylistic matchup for Danny Garcia. I think Lara outboxes him. But Lara will stand in the pocket now. Lara doesn't run around the ring boxing anymore like he used to. He doesn't get on that bicycle. Lara has tried this new style of standing up and just engaging, which to me can work for him because he'll get some shots off on Garcia, and Lara has a big left hand. But if he's standing there in front of Danny Garcia, Lara can get himself in some trouble. But then again, it's just a tough fight. I just think anything at 154 is a tough fight for Danny Garcia. He's just too small. Now he's also talking about getting back in the ring with Keith Thurman. I think that's a fight that should be made. I honestly do. Keith Thurman, Spence doesn't want to fight him. Crawford's not really thinking about him. Boots wants to fight him. I think this just glitched. So Spence doesn't want to fight Thurman. Crawford isn't thinking about Thurman. Boots wants to fight Thurman. Thurman doesn't want to fight Boots because Thurman's saying he's not a gatekeeper, and these up-and-coming fighters need to put more respect on his name. But the reality is, I think Keith Thurman knows if he gets in there with a guy like Boots, that's not an easy fight. You got to give Thurman a chance because he's still a bad boy, but I just don't see him beating no damn Boots Ennis. So for Keith Thurman, who needs to get back in the ring, why not get back in the ring this year against Danny Garcia? Hell, go up and fight him at 154. I think it's a win-win for both of them. I'd have to give Keith Thurman the edge in that fight because Danny Garcia just looks slow. Now, I know he's coming off of like a 19-month layoff, a lot of ring rust, coming off of that loss to Spence. But this is the thing with Danny Garcia, right? We're talking about Keith Thurman. Danny Garcia, whenever I do these videos on Adrian Broner, I always talk about being traumatized and the mental health piece and not being able to get beyond that trauma that comes with a defeat or getting hit really hard, or even outside the ring, if you're out there swimming and almost drowned, or you have an allergic reaction or something, or you grow up in a lot of verbal abuse, right? When things affect you mentally, or there's some kind of trauma, You know what I mean? Or being in a car accident. You know what I'm saying? There's certain triggers, okay, that are activated when you find yourself almost back in the same situation or a similar situation. You know, there are certain triggers. And for Danny Garcia, that trigger was when he lost to Keith Thurman. Last night he was talking a lot about, he just started crying, man. And I felt him, and I felt that guy. Because you used to performing, your whole career you go on performing, right? And people expect you to lose. You keep winning. And you finally get to this level where it's like, all right, I've arrived. And then you have your loss. And then people just start shredding you because they feel like, all right, he should have lost a long time ago, finally. And, you know, making fun of you. And as a person, whether it's boxing or not, you know, when things affect you mentally, you can't leave your mind behind. And with Danny Garcia, that shit plagued him, man. That loss to Keith Thurman plagued him. Then coming back and getting in there, a fight with Sean Porter, you know, losing that fight, that affected him because everybody was saying, you know, he's just not good enough for 147 pounds to be elite. And then he said, you know what, I'm going to go fight Earl Spence. Gets in there with Spence, and he loses. You know, he lost that fight. But it's the things that were being said about him outside the ring and just his dad. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. His dad didn't help his situation. His dad brought a lot of unnecessary attention on them, and Danny Garcia unfortunately suffered for the things his dad did and said. And that sucks. That really does. And it all showed up last night when he started talking. Then you can imagine being married, have a daughter, whatever ups and downs going on in the house, you want to be there with your kids, but then you got to go train. But then, you know, you decide I'm going to take time off, but then you feel like you're letting yourself go. You should be training. It's hard to balance, man, work and life. And those stresses and those triggers are there. You know, then you get in the ring, get back in the ring, and maybe you weren't 100% because of things going on outside the ring, personal issues, and then people don't really, we can't see that. People just see your lackluster performance and they rip you, even though the one fight he's been in where he really lost was Earl Spence. And nobody really, you know, wants to look at the opponent he faced. It's more just like, oh, he lost again. And Danny Garcia had to luggage that around, man. So last night he moved to 154 and he got that win. And I think if Danny Garcia would have lost that fight, he would have been in bad shape. Bad shape. You know, because he just started talking and he started crying. He was overwhelmed with emotion, man. And I felt him on that. You know, feeling like this is what I love, this is what I need to be doing. Without boxing, he almost feels like a nobody, like he's lost. And I felt that, man. You know, like those of you who've been on the channel for a while, sometimes you hear me say, you know, I retired and stuff like that. But I retired 4 years ago. And when I retired from a high level. And I chose not to go back to work. You know, I had opportunities. I chose not to because I had 4 sons, but my smallest one, he was only like 4 months old, man. And by not going back to work, like probably around the second year, I started to feel a kind of way because you get people, hey, what are you doing? And, you know, got this opportunity for you. And you look at it and you know, you're like, that's a great opportunity. But in my gut, I couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be home with my kids, but particularly that little one, to raise that little one, man. The other 3 were in school. And you start watching what's going on around you, you know, and you see other people, man, out there doing certain things. And I try not to worry about what anyone else is doing, but, you know, to be honest with you, there were some times where, like Danny Garcia, I was kind of fighting with myself on, do I do what's the most important, which is time with the kids, or do I go chase this money, you know? Because I know what I bring to the table, and I know what I enjoy doing. And I pushed through it, but there were some tough times, man. But when I looked at my kids, there was nothing for me to think about. But you figure you've been retired for for 4 years, and if you're out there grinding for those 4 years, there's a lot of money that was left on the table. You know what I'm saying? But it's just not worth it. And for Danny Garcia, I think he looked at that and he's trying to balance, work and life. It's something we used to say when I was in the military. Balance the morale, mission, and morale. You know what I'm saying? The mission is the job and the work you got to do, and morale is just with the people and trying to get them to understand what it is you have to get done, but be happy doing it. And sometimes you're just gonna suck for people because things have to get done, and it is what it is. Long hours and stuff like that. So morale suffers, but the mission gets done. But then if you come now and you give people what they want, well, then morale is high, but then the mission gets jeopardized. And you just can't do that. So it's extremely tough trying to balance morale and mission. And that's the same thing in your personal life, trying to balance work and, the wife, the kids, and the home life. And if you give 100% into work, and sometimes that could take from your time with your family, then now work is successful, you're making the money, but you come home and you're miserable because family life isn't right. But if you put 100% into your family life, and when they need someone to work a little extra hours or come and volunteer or come and help out or come and do this kind of a camaraderie type building event or whatever, and you turn those things down, well, then at some point, they're going to look at the people who are being involved, and you can miss out on huge opportunities, for promotion or whatever. But that's why you got to strike that balance. And I think Danny Garcia is at a point to where he's able to strike the right balance. And even for me, my little one starts a full day of pre-K this year. So all 4 of my sons will be in school. And that'd be the first time for me in 12 years. So this last 4 years that I sacrificed, kind of like what Danny Garcia was doing the last 19 months, I feel very good. Because now it's like, okay, everything's coming full circle. But I'll probably wait till he's in kindergarten. And then, where he can really handle himself, from doing, number 1, number 2 in the bathroom, all that shit, you know what I'm saying? When he can handle himself, then I'm wide open. And Danny Garcia is at a point to where it looks like he's created the right balance. He kind of pick and choose what he wants. Daughter's a little bit older. Wife is kind of adjusting to being married to a boxer. His dad has changed his attitude. The boxing community receives him a little bit differently now. And his dad has all the distractions with fines and not being able to come to press conferences. Remember all that crap he was going to? It's because of his mouth. But that affected Danny. And just like Danny, I understand. And that's why I'm glad to see, like for myself, like for him, everything coming full circle. But when he was talking last night, boy, I was like, man, I understood. That shit made me get a little emotional, man, especially when you're talking about your kids. And, I know it's like picking and choosing, and what do I do? And with him, he has a shelf life as a boxer. And for me, there's kind of a shelf life because at some point you start dealing with age discrimination, So, but at the end of the day, you got to follow your moral compass. And it's all about the family, especially your kids, man. It's other stuff. I'm not going to say, money doesn't matter, but how much money is enough? You know what I'm saying? If you don't have anything and you have to work, then that's different. But if you're all right, and there's nothing that could possibly come up that a situation you can't deal with financially, what are you doing killing yourself? But if you don't have any of those distractions, any of those stressors, and you can go do it, then do it. But if you're trying to pick between, grinding it out a job to make $100, $200, $300, $400 million, $100,000, $200,000 a year, and your child or your family who wants you around when you don't have to, what are you doing? So I feel Danny Garcia, but I think Danny Garcia is gonna have an uphill battle at 154 though. I just think good fighter, worked through a lot of his issues. I'm so happy for him. I'm happy for anybody who can work through their issues. I understand that shit. But I just think at 154 he's gonna struggle. He's a great boxer, but I just think, weight categories for weight division for a reason. And I think for him at 140, he was able to walk through guys. 147 was a good weight division for him, but 154, if he's trying to get in there with even a Rosario and Williams and Hurd and leave Jamel Charlo alone, I'll tell you that. He's going to have a Tony Harrison. He's going to have an uphill battle, man. It's not going to be easy for him. But that being said, I'll leave it as that, man. Danny Garcia, man, he deserves even David Benavidez, man. Those guys, the stuff those guys go through, we don't get to see what's going on, man. You know, we don't have the full story of what's going on with those guys behind the scenes. We don't have the full story of what's going on behind the scenes. But just knowing that David Benavidez have been shot, and Danny Garcia with what he has going on with his dad and everything else, and people trying to encourage him to leave his father, and you know, boxers go through, people in general go through a lot. It's just the thing about these high-profile athletes is their information is just out there. You know what I'm saying? And that sucks. But there's pros and cons, right? Because they make a lot of money, and some of that comes with the territory. That's why you got to have the right people around you, to help you work beyond that. And I'm glad he's able to get the assistance he needed. But that being said, man, Danny Garcia, hopefully he fights Thurman next. I think that's a good fight for him. Lara's a good fight because Lara's slowed down, but Lara's still powerful. But when he starts talking about any of those big names at 154, I think he has an uphill battle. But leave your comments below. That being said, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Shout out to the veterans. Hit that reminder icon, that bell, or whatever the hell it's called. And I appreciate the support. Shout out to the veterans. Keep cool. I'll be in Florida later this week, so when I'm making videos, you may see me out there by the beach. It may not be kind of like this situation, so just work with me for the next 10 days till I get back. Y'all keep cool and I'm in the breeze.